If you want this nightmare to end, you need to tell your friends about this. I am personally going to get an Arrest Fauci t-shirt and maybe a bumper sticker. So I was just talking about puppy experiments. Yes, puppy experiments. Directly money from Fauci. They awarded a department at the University of Georgia a $400,000 grant to inject beagles with a parasite. And then after they euthanized them, and according to this watchdog group called White Coat Waste, wasting resources, those dogs did not need to be euthanized, that they could have been put in rescue and adopted out. Now, beagles, there's really something so tender about beagles. Again, according to this watchdog group, which got the information using the Freedom of Information Act request, the breed was chosen because they are docile. Ladies and gentlemen, the American public is not going to stand for this. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your politics are. It's my impression that most of the public has been under the impression that we're no longer doing animal testing in our country, which could not be further from the truth. You hear about how all these beauty products are not tested on animals. You know, they'll put a label on it. But as far as research into this and that, it's going strong and has been for a long time. And you read any scientific paper about COVID, and you're going to see that mice and bats they're being used, routinely. Now, are their practices humane? Well, we all like to think so. The beagle thing is really bad, where they removed the dog's vocal cords. They locked the puppy's heads in a cage or a harness, enclosed harness, and they allowed sand flies to basically eat their flesh. They had removed the vocal cords so that they couldn't hear them screaming. They replicated this study in Tunisia, leaving them out for 9 consecutive nights, all night, with their heads stuck in the cages, and then they killed them. The purpose of it remains a mystery to me, except that this White Coat Waste group says it's research on biowarfare, because, we got to get ahead of the enemy, right? Who knows what they're going to do? So I've been doing a lot of research on kind of a bio-arms race. There was an explosion meaning lots of them being created, of level 4 biolab in the last 20 years. Every country felt that they needed to have that kind of a lab, and it wasn't all for peace and love, let me tell you that. Let's just put it that way. As you would imagine, the U.S. government has a very long history of managing chemicals or not managing chemicals in a sort of bioarms race. But the Tunisia thing, it's profoundly disturbing, because this watchdog group says that there really isn't enough good reason or compelling reason to use these beagles. And we're not talking chump change. We're talking $40 billion is spent by the NIH, and then 45% of all NIH research involves animals. This is a very large-scale issue. It's almost so large that we can hardly fathom it. And then, of course, this is the person handling the pandemic. And doesn't it sound familiar? They forego common sense and measures that work in favor of spreading around the millions, spreading around the billions to the needy NGOs who would starve if they didn't get this money. So there'll be a reckoning. There's going to be an accountability reckoning on the money side, and there's also going to be a reckoning on the humane or lack of humanity side. Even though people for the ethical treatment of animals, PETA, they're constantly putting out information about the abuse of animals, and it almost seems like we don't even notice it or pay any attention to it. But I don't know, I think this is different. With Fauci so high profile, Dr. Fauci being so much put forward, he's been there since 1984 in the same position. The fact that he's been so high profile, even though he is the darling of legacy politicians and media, he's also now, because of his narcissism, he has set himself up for a fall. An Icarus moment, it cannot come soon enough. These guys who did the expose, they said that even though Fauci didn't do the experiments himself, allegedly. The focus on animals and the need for the use of animals and the emphasis on it is absolutely attributable to Francis Collins, head of NIH, Anthony Fauci, the head of NIAID. And they said most of the government agencies these days have actually started to move away from it because it's not necessary. There are some necessary uses of animals and animal tissue, but the 3 experiments that involved beagles were not necessary. One of them, they injected them with anthrax to test an anthrax vaccine, which was already approved by the FDA. I would doubt this report a lot more if I hadn't seen a pattern of this already. Sad to be the bearer of bad news, but if you want this nightmare to end, you need to tell your friends about this. I am personally going to get an Arrest Fauci t-shirt and maybe a bumper sticker. Okay? You don't mess with the beagles, all right? You don't mess with the puppies. It's not what we do here. China, meaning like they don't value dogs, they eat them. Well, we're worse. Have a great day though, okay? Stay positive.